Hello there, welcome to the program. I'm Keaton Shaw, and thank you very much for joining us this morning. Bit of a dark morning, isn't it? But nevertheless, the big news this morning, of course, stems from TSTT with the issue of cybersecurity following that cyber hack that took place a couple of weeks ago. Well, at least when we were informed a couple of weeks ago. Lisa A. Gard, the Chief Executive Officer, who's now the former CEO, she was yesterday fired by the board of TSTT. An acting CEO has been put in place, but that's the big news this morning following that hack. So more to come certainly on this as TSTT continues to recover from its cyber attack. And the citizens of Transvaal continue to wonder exactly the sensitive information that was stolen. Well, according to the minister, it's not so sensitive, is it? Anyway, let's put that aside for a moment. 7 police officers have been charged with misbehavior in public office. But the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Social and Welfare Association is providing support for them as they go through the legal and judicial process. Now, citizens of TNT have issued their opinions suggesting that they are not necessarily in favor of this. Now, bear in mind, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. That goes for each and every individual. But to explain a bit more, I'm joined this morning by the president of said association, Assistant Superintendent Gideon Dixon. He's with us via Zoom. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Mr. Shah. Thanks for having me this morning on the program. Thanks for your viewership. I just would want to bring some light on the issue as it relates to what is expected or what our rules cater for officers who are members of the association whilst acting in their capacity as police officers. There might be allegations against them. So what that simply means is that we have a legal aid policy and a process. So only those officers who are in fact members of the association will be given financial assistance as it relates to that. The officer, him or her, would be required to fill out the necessary documents and have it submitted together with a request for an attorney of their choice. And subsequently, when our legal aid committee meets on a quarterly basis, funds will be to the officers so that they would be able to have an attorney represent them during the process of the matter. So that is it in a nutshell there. And this has been around since time immemorial, and it continues to today. And it is adequately manned by Woman Sergeant Solomon and a team of officers who look into ensuring that the officers have that necessary financial support. As it relates to the other support that could be afforded to officers, whether you're a member of the association or not, it speaks to our social work department and also our victim support department, where officers can go visit these trained professionals and have an intervention be done in light of the situation facing them at this point in time.
Now, I understand how unions work, and I understand the purpose of unions. Fair enough. This is just part of how the union operates and part of the union's mandate. But in that sense, whilst I could understand and respect that, how do you respond to citizens who are suggesting that the associations should not get involved, especially when there are instances or efforts to try and weed out corruption within the TTPS?
It's an excellent question. And the association operates from a dual-edged sword. That is to simply say that allegation remain simply that. And a man's constitutional right is that he's innocent until proven guilty. The association supports weeding out any corrupt element out of the organization. So we will be the first to go on a platform and say, let's get those persons out through our due process. But we cannot sacrifice due process and and look to call for speed and weeding out without giving the person or the individual an opportunity to be heard. And even with that, the officers contribute their funding to the association with a view that in instances like this, the association will be there to assist in terms of the financial allocation towards their legal fees. That we cannot sidestep that, right? So, yes, I hear the cries of the people, but again, it is an allegation at this point in time. It also suggests that our officers working in these sections, particularly those who are judges, they are not being prejudicial. They would have gotten advice from the Director of Public Prosecution and they would have preferred charges. Members of the public, when they speak to the public trust and the confidence and it being dampened every time an officer is brought before the court, I agree. To a great extent, it has been dampened, but also on the flip side of the coin, it shows a working body trying to eradicate its own, and the only body in Trinidad and Tobago who tries to purge itself of potential rogue or potential deviant behavior by its own. So it is a model that could be looked at across the board as opposed to just the police service. Because again, we are just a subset of a larger society and larger and all institutions.
In the instance, let's say suppose, because again, I'm not entirely sure myself, whether or not there are officers who are carrying out the investigation that would have submitted all their findings to the DPP will then decide there is enough to charge these 7 officers. But what about the instance where said police officers investigating such cases are also members of the association? Could there be a spillover effect where there actually may be some level of tangling?
Some level of what? Can you repeat
Tangling,
that?
in regards to the fact that there may be the removal of any sort of bias because officers working who are carrying out these investigations are also members of the association or members of the executive within the association.
Well, again, that question just strengthened my point. The point I made is that we have officers who are prepared to bring even officers before the court. So in the past, you might have heard comments like they protect their own, they cover up. And in most institutions in Trinidad and Tobago, there is that level of protection afforded to their own. However, that is not the case with the TTPS. We bring our own before competent authority, that is through the court. So we have members of the association who is investigating members of the association, and once there's sufficient evidence, they take them before the court. So it reinforces that we are working assiduously to bring potential rogue officers out into the public space and have them dealt with according to law. But then again, on the flip side, those said officers, they are innocent until proven guilty, and they also require the day before the court to be able to answer. So pronouncing before the matter is determined, it is not fair to those officers either. And we, as a beacon of fairness, cannot take any particular side because we have officers, again, on both sides of the divide.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've mentioned legal aid in the form of financial assistance from the association. Is there any rules surrounding this? At any point in time, do officers actually have to repay for said financial aid, or is this just something that is given to them because of their membership and their membership fees?
We have some guidelines which the Legal Aid Committee would utilize before allocation. We also have some thresholds by which funding is allocated, and we wouldn't bring it and publicize it on the public airways. Those are members' matters, members' interests, which I wouldn't put in the public space. But again, it acts as a guideline for us to be able to provide some form of support in this time of distress for the officer. Additionally, one must consider that financial support at this point in time, officers will also be impacted by virtue of their salary because they will get suspended and there will be an interdiction of their salary in most instances. So these officers, if it is, they would have had other financial obligation to meet on a monthly basis, that could also be impeded. And we wouldn't want the officer, whilst they are still awaiting their day in court, to end up destitute as a result of a charge hanging over their head. So from our welfare perspective, our welfare committee will reach out to the officers to ensure that both mental, physical, and economic challenges that might become a reality does not put them in that place and space. Right? So we do a holistic, multi-pronged approach to ensure that our officers still continue to hold their head up in the face of adversity. And also we take no side because, again, we have officers who would have preferred the charges, and we have the court who will settle as to whether innocent or guilty.
Now, one local newspaper has actually suggested that you were questioning whether there were systems to ensure swift justice. Have you gotten any answer so far in regards to such questions?
If I've gotten, I don't hear the part there.
Any answer thus far as to you questioning whether or not there were systems for swift justice?
Well, I have commented that there is need for us as a people to even look at our entire, because whereas we are guaranteed certain justice might have been applicable prior to the 21st century. Right now, as our country continues to degenerate into a level of lawlessness and the public is seeking justice, we might have to consider changing our entire concept in terms of what justice system is best for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Additionally, we still hold on strong to retributive justice, where an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And our penal system is saying it should be rehabilitative and it should be restorative in terms of justice to bring persons back into society. However, the general public has not been educated to that point to say that they would want to accept those as an option when they would have lost a loved one or lost something in terms of valuable. They want to be compensated adequately for what they would have lost at that point in time. So it is an entire discussion that needs to take place. It needs to take place from a consultancy perspective. We need a referendum to also take place in relation to it, and consideration must be given because we are no longer operating in a time where education was not at the fingertip of everyone, because it's on everyone's phone and persons are embarking on higher education. So all these things coming into being, we should consider what we would want to have as the face of our criminal justice system. Is it certain justice? Is it swift justice? And these things will also be able to win public trust and confidence.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Dixon, before we conclude our conversation this morning, I'm just going to raise one topic. Earlier this year, you've responded to suggesting that you were against it, but given such instances within recent times of we're hearing of officers who are being held for misbehavior in public office, does it give credit to the Prime Minister's suggestion that there should be vetted units within the TTPS to weed out corruption? This
question always comes, and my response will be a similar response all the time. We, the TTPS, have had vetted units for a very long time. We have sufficient vetted units. Where we sit in law enforcement, I could tell you that every time a murder occurs, it hits the professional law enforcement officer in a negative light. I could also tell you that from where the saddest or the thing that causes tears to both parents and community is the falling of our loved ones through the prevalence of firearms outside on the street. I could tell you that in those instances, the concern from a law enforcement perspective is not whether we have corrupt officers committing these offenses. The bigger concern as far as this country should be focusing is those porous borders, firearms coming in, and we are losing our men and women as a result of it. How do we curtail that? Is it by creating more vetted units and have less persons in the station out on the beat to both suppress and deter crime from happening? So I understand the Prime Minister's statement and I respect it. But I'm saying I am in this. This is my profession. I want to be judged based on what I do with respect to the crime. And the crime to me, from where I sit and the information that I have, it is not perforated as much as the vetted unit is suggesting that we need at this point in time to be able to weed corrupt officers out of the organization. We have sufficient units within the organization doing that, and we even have oversight, independent units doing that at this point in time. What we don't have and what we need is a reallocation of our resources, and let me commend the Commissioner for attempting to do that in terms of reallocating resources to be able to have persons out on the beat to suppress and deter crime. So our strategies are right there, and they need to be changing consistently with the times. So vetted units, they have their place, they have their space. We have it, and we continue to use it. And the unit that would have brought these officers before the court, as of yesterday, are in fact a vetted unit, are one of our vetted units. So to say we need more vetted units, I think that it's an overkill.
Well, sir, thank you very much for your comments in regards to that, and thank you very much for your time this morning, because I know we could expand on this conversation, but unfortunately time does not necessarily permit. But nevertheless, all the very best to you and to the association, and well, until the next conversation, keep well, and all the very best to you.
Thank you, sir. Do enjoy your day.
Do have a good day. That is Assistant Superintendent Gideon Dixon, President of the Police Service Social and Welfare Association, joining me this morning in regards to the association offering legal aid to officers who are part of the union, but whom charges have been brought against. Now, this is in relation to a story of 7 officers who have been charged by the Office of the DPP with misbehavior in public office. It's not suggested that all 7 officers will receive such funding in terms of legal aid. Yes, they put forward their request by filling out all the prerequisites, and the committee meets on a quarterly basis and will determine whether or not such funds should be or would be released to the officers by request. But those 7 officers, again, not sure if all will receive it. Again, depends on the membership, what happens when the committee meets. For now, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break on the program. When we return, we'll get into another interesting conversation this morning surrounding our history and who we are as a people. And it's about social studies, to be honest with you, and whether or not we're actually teaching our children about who we are. We'll be right back after this.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today. Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. My next conversation, as I mentioned before we took that last break, is in regards to social studies. Just understanding our history and who we are as a people, because National Day of Remembrance was celebrated on Monday, but not many people actually knew such events were taking place. And one war veteran, one representative of the TNT Legion of Royal Commonwealth Ex-Services League expressed, and that's retired Warrant Officer Hilton George Clark, that children were never taught what this is. Adults don't know what it is, and yet every year within the schools we sell poppies for $1, which students gladly wear. Do they understand the symbol of that? Well, this morning an individual joining me in the conversation is Mr. Steve Antoine. He's the host of Conscious Talks, and he's with me in studio. Good morning, Mr. Antoine. How are you?
I'm fine. A pleasant morning to you, and appreciate the fact that you invited me. Much appreciated. You indicated Memorial Day.
Yeah.
And the fact that I should say a lot of young people is not conscious of Memorial Day. And you also mentioned the puppy. As a young man growing up in school, I recall practically every term, or within the term, this little red puppy with the straight pin, you know, the amount of pricks you get on your chest while putting it on. I'm sure if you're aware of the puppy.
Very aware of it, yeah.
Yes. And you know, it's either a penny in those days, but there has to be a little contribution towards the puppy. And it was a big thing because, I mean, in school and as a child growing up in primary school and what have you, you look forward for this puppy, but honestly and realistically, I never knew of the significance of the puppy, I must admit. All I know, I seen this little red flower, you see, and because of the fact that the little occasion 2 days ago, and the gentleman explained what the puppy is about there and then, I got the gist of what the puppy was about in those days when I used to get the puppy in school, more or less. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's, it precisely leads to the conversation stemming from what he said about children in the school. Because as you mentioned, even when you were to put on the puppy, and we all got some enjoyment from doing so, I myself never truly understood what it is until I got older. But this thing about memorials, this thing about remembrance in TNT, we celebrate so many different occasions, but it seems as though it only gathers some level of understanding or grandeur importance on the actual day of the event. People don't know that it's coming up, people don't know that it's past, and I'll be very honest with you, should the news have not carried it, I don't think the citizens of TNT would have understood that, listen, we've had National Day of Remembrance on Monday. So this is all part of our understanding of who we are as a people, where we came from, what we faced. Here in TNT, do you think enough effort is being made, and just based on my introduction, I'm probably already answered my own question, in regards to us doing more to bring that level of consciousness to our society?
I agree with you 100%. You see, there are certain things within our country, sir, respectfully. You mentioned consciousness and awareness. And it's only within a small time frame that we are aware of Memorial Day. And it's a grand event, I must say. Reason why I'm saying it's a grand event, we say the National Day of Remembrance, which is normally held at the National Memorial Park in Port of Spain, okay? It's basically a reclaim ceremony, a reclaim occasion held to honor members of the armed forces who served and fell in combat in World War I from 1914 to 1918 and World War II, 1939 to 1945. Just that alone to me speaks volumes. The National Day of Remembrance, or Memorial Day as we would say, and they even say it's a decorative day because of the fact of the wreaths around that memorial.
Yeah.
Right. The idea, it's grand. And I would say in simple terms that enough is not being done to those who have served, not necessarily those in war, but in a broad spectrum. Respectfully, I say this. Even our Calypsonians, sir, I'll go that thin, not to water down anything, but being realistic and being conscious. We do not pay enough dues to those who have served us. Not only on Memorial Day, which is a day where we're supposed to respect, because those in attendance normally are ministers of government, members of the diplomatic corps, heads of defense and protective services, senior public officials, representatives of the Trinidad and Tobago Legion of Royal Commonwealth, ex-Services League, and other dignitaries who would lay wreaths. So that alone say it's a grand event, as you mentioned, but not enough is being done to keep it on the burner. It's like most things, sir, respectfully again, a one-day event, and that's it. To answer your question.
Well, since we've broadened the topic a bit, because you mentioned even our Calypsonians, even Carnival, people don't understand where Carnival evolved from. I think there's a total misunderstanding of what Carnival is. We're happy for parts of the celebrations, but generally all around, in my opinion, at least here in TNT, our notion of service is a former prime minister, a former minister, a former principal or professor at some institution, educational institution. That's just basically our notion of service. But as you mentioned, it goes to those who have helped in terms of arts and culture, those who have helped in terms of sports. It's beyond military, it's beyond political.
You're so right. You're so right, sir. You see, I tend to look at things, first of all, respectfully. Because you know, you may say things, and something is said in one way, and it could be adjusted to 10 different ways. For instance, there are 10 people in a line, and you will start like this, and by the time it reaches the 10th person, it would be a clap. So, saying that, when I analyze things and I speak out from my perspective as to what I grasp from what is being said or done, people might think I'm trying to be obnoxious, disrespectful, and other things in the negative. But as an individual and as a citizen, I want best for country. So, and you being here this early morning is an indication you want best for country in that aspect, because of the fact that you don't have to be here if you choose not to be here. But there's a choice you make, sir, to be here.
What about in instances such as, going back to history again, and it's a very good question, one of my directors is asking in regards to, for example, even understanding the Churchill Roosevelt Highway. The names alone, Churchill Roosevelt, you know, it was something in when I could recall when I was in primary school, it was a most brief topic. Well, these were former heads of nations at a time when the world was at a very dark and difficult age. But that's just it. There's no understanding as to why here in TNT we named our highway Churchill Roosevelt Highway.
So, you're going in a totally different era as we speak. You know what you're speaking about there? Decolonization as we speak, that, in my humble view. Because besides the Churchill Roosevelt Highway, you have the King George V Park. But controversially, again, and respectfully, within the King George V Park, there is a sign or a monument or a memorial which is called the Nelson Mandela Park. And as we say that, sir, let me just say this. A memorial is an object or place which serves as a focus for the memory of the commemoration of something, usually an influential deceased person or a historical tragic event. Now, we spoke about Memorial Day. What I just read out, sir, which is considered a memorial, yes, I could tie that, the memorial in Memorial Park, where the wreaths are being placed, that monument or a memorial, you see? And it's because for remembrance, memorial, it comes like remembrance, more or less. Monument, tribute, commemorative. And when I look at the Nelson Mandela Park sign, sir, respectfully, it is in a deplorable condition. Not comparing the monument at Memorial Park. So last week Friday, strange enough, I was passing through, just coming down right on Frederick Street, and the entire Port of Spain Corporation was at that park, sir, cleaning that surroundings. They were even shining the brass. If you follow me.
Yeah.
Last week Friday, I saw with my own 2 eyes, cleaning the brass. But I would like for you, sir, when you leave here this morning, and to the listening public, to go opposite Roxy, the Roxy roundabout, and look at the Nelson Mandela Park sign, when we know a memorial is an object or place which serves as a focus for the memory of the commemoration of something, usually an influential deceased person or historical tragic event.
Now, I know that this conversation focused on National Day of Remembrance, but I'm appreciative of how we've been able to broaden it, how you've been able to broaden it. And I know we don't have much time left, but it's a question that has irked me for quite some time, and I'm wondering if you could help me find some level of answer. Why is it that here in Trinidad and Tobago, for example, that we have highways named Churchill, Roosevelt, Nelson Mandela, King George V? Shouldn't these highways, shouldn't these memorials, however we like to phrase it or define it, be named after Trinbagonians, be named after individuals in Trinidad and Tobago? Not everything has to be Eric Williams. Not everything has to be about some sports figure or some former leader. But there are individuals out there who people are not aware of. Why are we choosing as a nation to have these places or memorials, again, whatever you like to define it, named after individuals who may not have had that impact on a nation since 1962? We are an independent nation. We are a republic. Why do these monuments still exist?
Well, in my humble view, the word decolonized still exists because we have Frederick Street, as I said, King George V Park, and there are numerous other names of streets and places with those type of names. And apparently no one is looking into it for things to be changed. Queen Street, the name was changed to Janelle Penny Commission Street. There is a street in Arima which was named after, I think it was the Baron. Mm-hmm. Things like this would be given back to our heroes or our icons. You see, simple as that. Simple, sir, the simple things matters. But it seems, not cutting again, but do you know there is a Nelson Mandela Day? Just as how there is a Memorial Day, there is a Nelson Mandela Day, sir. And the dignity which is not being afforded to this gentleman, Nelson Mandela. When you hear Nelson Mandela, sir, the name speaks for itself. And I am aggrieved to see the condition that it is in. I went as far as to write the Equal Opportunities Commission in connection with that. When the last mayor was there, it was said, after correspondence from the EOC, that they would have rectified that sign or monument or whatever you want to call it. And to date, nothing. And remember, I indicated to you Friday when I was traversing, I started doing the cleaning up of the Memorial Park. Well, sir, I was on my way to the new mayor's office to deliver another letter, another correspondence in connection with that Nelson. You see, simple things. If simple things cannot be fixed by a country, I don't want to go too deep to sound like if I'm taken away from the said matter, but if simple things cannot be fixed in a country where you are hearing 55 million for a building where nobody has entered, that tugs at my mental consciousness.
Well, I understand. I relate. Unfortunately, we're going to have to pause in this conversation. I
do appreciate.
I think there's a lot of room for continuation and further expansion. But thank you very much, nevertheless, for your time, sir.
And thank you very much for you and your station for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. I know, ladies and gentlemen, the conversation started in regards to understanding National Day of Remembrance, but such conversations go beyond that. And this morning we expanded on a host of issues, which I will say that we can further expand on in time to come. Yes, conscious talks. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back after this.
Here is the WESN News on the Hour. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. SRP shot once in the chest with a 12-gauge shotgun. Scarborough Maxi taxi operators scolded for not collecting passengers. Repairs scheduled for a sewer pipeline on Charlotte Street. And regionally, Dominica created the world first protected area endangered sperm whales. Now for the details. Investigations are ongoing into the murder of 56-year-old Special Reserve Police Officer Charles Kublal Singh. Kublal Singh, who was on extended leave, was shot once in the chest with a 12-gauge shotgun mere moments after leaving a mini-mart on Woodford Street, Currab, on Saturday night. His attacker then stole his gun and car. The incident occurred shortly after 8 p.m. Reports are that he had requested leave from duty after he became a witness in a murder case where one of his then superiors was charged. That matter is still ongoing. Maxi taxi operators came in for scolding criticism as they no-show to collect passengers at the Scarborough Port in Tobago on Saturday. While there was a lot of dancing at the Scarborough Port, pan music and moku jumbies, there was disappointment as pre-booked tours for 300 tourists were cancelled due to the non-arrival of maxi taxis. Head of the business chamber in Tobago, Martin George, has described the situation as unacceptable and insisted that Tobago needs to get its act together if they are to capitalize on the new season. Traffic restrictions are set to impact Charlotte Street in Port of Spain, specifically between Park and Oxford Street, as repairs are scheduled for a sewer pipeline. The Water and Sewerage Authority has issued an advisory indicating that repairs will take place from 4 p.m. on Friday, November 17th until 6 a.m. on Saturday, November 18th. Motorists are advised to exercise caution, follow instructions from traffic control officers on site, and consider alternative routes during the repair period. Regionally, Dominica is creating the world's first marine protected area for one of the Earth's largest animals, the endangered sperm whale. Nearly 300 square miles of royal blue waters on the western side of the island nation that serves as key nursing and feeding grounds will be designated as a reserve, the government announced on Monday. Dominica Prime Minister Roosevelt Scarrett said they want to ensure these majestic and highly intelligent animals are safe from harm and continue keeping our waters and our climate healthy. With that, it's News on the Hour on WESN. I am Sira Ali. Thank you for watching.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. It's my favorite time of the week. It's Wild Wednesday. And alongside me, of course, is my good friend, Mr. Ricardo Mead. Hello, sir. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, good morning, good morning to you, and good morning to all our viewers, listeners, followers, and supporters out there and the WWW. We're here. It's WW, Wild Wednesday.
Good to see you, sir. Good to see you.
Great to be here as usual, to have the opportunity to communicate. You know, thank you all for letting me into your lives to blab for a bit about what I'm passionate about. And it seems that you're here looking at us because you have some little feeling, a little interest, a little curiosity about what we do. So thank you for that opportunity.
Always. There are many people actually who, I think the first time we started was when you brought Chase. The black vulture.
Correct.
And I had the opportunity to go see Chase in action last week. I have never met a bird with so much personality. Just all around. I'm not talking about in specific black vultures or hawks or whatever. I'm just saying generally, I've never met a bird with so much personality.
Yeah, he's quite a character. He
And
really is.
I was in the supermarket shopping, and a little lady came up to me and says, I saw you had the black vulture on TV, and that's the thing. She didn't say Kobo. She said black vulture. I said,
there's hope.
Ricardo Mead is doing a good job.
Some people tell me, you have to stop telling people it's not a Kobo. Trini know it as Kobo. I said the world can change, we can change. If I accept that it must be called Kobo, then why even try for peace? Why try for harmony, racial harmony, cultural harmony? Why even try? Do you say that we can't change? We can change, and we have changed quite a lot, especially here in this Western Hemisphere in the past how many 100 years. We have changed, and change is the only constant that we should really embrace. It can happen, it will happen, but somebody has to say, that's not the way we should do it, and that's what we're doing.
So speaking about change, and this is a bit of a different topic, because in a bit we may be joined by our special guest as always.
Yeah, you may fly in.
But, I hope your long weekend went well, but I know, and I've received myself, and I've seen it myself, many complaints about how animals are affected over periods such as this.
Yeah, the trauma on living beings, not just the animals. So you have your domesticated animals. You have so many recorded cases of your dogs going through tremors, heart attacks. I've had the unfortunate opportunity to traverse the east-west corridor post fireworks and seen the carcasses of animals on the side of the road with colors. So you hear, well, nobody care about that potong in the road. It's still alive. But with the ones with the colors, and you see well-maintained animals laying dead on the side of the road, despite many people's best efforts. I saw one fence where one guy showed me when the neighbor popped that firework, that bomb, the dog just went straight up that 6-foot fence over the next side and bolted. He never saw it again. And then after that, he saw on social media pictures of the dog dead on the side of the road. And imagine that for the homeowner. So he didn't die, he didn't get physically hurt, but the trauma of losing his pet. And I have to explain to his kids and his wife what happened to the pet and see that on social media, right? And it's tough. What's really tough is that some things can be measured. You can measure your dog, your cat, reactions, and so on. The tough part to measure is the actual consequence on wildlife, because no one is there feeding them, taking care of them, counting them to see, well, first there were 10 birds here, and then the bomb went off, and now I've not seen any. But maybe one day we'll get to the point where we could do the surveys where we could quantify the damage and the effects of the fireworks on the wildlife. But we know it's there. They go off and you see the birds just take to the sky, and you wonder how many parents will not return to their nests out of fear because of that. So those eggs stay there, not sat upon, not incubated, they die in the shell. How many babies, nestlings, will not be fed because up to 12 times a day the mother, father would come back and feed them. So even for a short period of time, what you consider a short period of time during the day, if they don't come back, the animals can become emaciated, dehydrated, and die. And it just goes on and on. So many aspects of it goes on and on. So for example, San Fernando Hill, and it really breaks my heart when I look at San Fernando Hill. I'm from San Fernando. San Fernando Hill and Aparima, the original name. And first it was subject to quarrying. They wanted to flatten the hill, literally. And that was stopped. I have great men, for example, like James Lewa, who would finish his work at Naparima College and go and stand by Library Corner looking like a lone madman with his picket signs protesting against the demolition of a beautiful natural landmark as San Fernando Hill. So it was eventually stopped through his efforts and other people's efforts, but he really spearheaded it. Anybody can remember this crazy man there in Library Corner, San Fernando. And he got some of our young people involved, and we planted trees and we did a whole lot of stuff. Then when San Fernando became a city, he was at the forefront of that. And then they pushed to have the San Fernando Hill made the country's first national natural landmark. And in 1989, then Prime Minister A.N.R. Robinson came down and bestowed that honor upon the hill to make it the first natural landmark in Trinidad and Tobago. And the idea was to restore it to its natural beauty. So it's nice going up on the hill, but a lot is missing. It has not been restored enough. Yes. There has not been enough rehabilitation work to bring it back to that beauty. It still bears the scars that shows the ugly and mundane and selfish nature of people, because we wanted that material so much we're willing to destroy. And when you go up there in the little visitor center, there's a sign that was from Harris. It was Lord Harris of Harris Promenade.
Yes,
and
Lord Harris.
The steps were made there so the citizens could go up there to appreciate the beauty. And the idea was to restore that natural wildlife and that beauty. Yet, fast forward, and what do we have on San Fernando Hill? Boom, 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 boom. It's main area for fireworks, main area for booming fetes that you can hear for miles. What animal in their right mind sticking around for that? So when you go up on San Fernando Hill, the vistas are beautiful. It's amazing to be up there. But if you see a jet pass, you're lucky.
Really?
It's barren.
The wildlife
it's
population there?
They're not going to stick around. Some vultures touch down on the telex towers and the cell towers and so on, look around, high tension wires, and then they take off. It's very barren still. Not enough has been done to restore some of the rocky parts with natural orchids. And there was, I remember, one of the main fighting points for Mr. Lewa was there was an endemic orchid found only on San Fernando Hill that needed to be protected. And that still hasn't been done, and it probably has been lost by now. Who knows? But there can be so much more where you and your family can go up there and enjoy quiet and beautiful time.
You know, I'll be very honest with you, I wasn't even aware of all this. So I was aware of, I would like to refer to it as the desecration of San Fernando Hill.
Right.
And you're absolutely right. When you drive by, you still see the scars of such. But I wasn't even aware in regards to the wildlife and the population there. And even, as you just mentioned, the orchid that's endemic.
Right.
You know, it's incredible. But let's pause for a moment as we are doing some reflection, and we're going to welcome our special guest in a bit.
All right.
Yeah.
He's flown in. Flight has landed?
The flight has landed.
Flight has landed. Well, you know how it is sometimes at Woodbrook International Airport. Gets a little trafficy backed up, you know. The flight controllers have it, but they did their best and they got the flight in. So we'll be welcoming our special guest in a short while.
We'll be right back after this, folks.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the Content Capital.
My name is Carl Media, and I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. And as mentioned, passed security and stamped his passport. And you're hearing him this morning because we have a special treat for you. First of all, welcome Jeremy Beecham. He's not the special treat, but he's the special guest. Hey, Jeremy, good to see you again.
Hi, yes, good morning, guys.
Jeremy, who do you have with us this morning? It's an absolute beauty.
This is Sky. This is our white hawk. He is one of the birds you'll find mostly in forested areas. Very beautiful specimen, as you can see. This lovely tuxedo he's wearing here right now. He's prepared for the interview.
Yeah, he is absolutely gorgeous. I'm quite amazed, to be honest with him. I'm a bit lost because I've seen the Savannah hawk, but this gentleman really, as you said, the tuxedo is more that he's wearing. So, but you said mainly forested areas. So what happened to him? How did he end up at the center?
This bird came in as a juvenile. Obviously, we would try to rehabilitate it to get hunting, to get him back out to the wild. He's showing very good hunting abilities. This is a very sharp bird. Every time I train this bird or try to hunt it, I would come back bleeding. Because you see those talons are very sharp. He's very quick with his feet, He will snatch anything that moves. If you pass too close to him, he will try to grab you.
Yeah, that's why I'm very far away from him this morning. Ricardo, I've honestly never seen one of these birds before because mainly forested areas. So throughout Trinidad and Tobago?
Pretty much once you're in the forested areas or the edge of the forested areas, you would have probably driven past. Have you ever been to a place called Maracas Beach?
Yes.
So you probably would have driven past this bird many times. Along that North Coast Road, you're just standing in a light pole or one of the dead trees, usually on the left-hand side. So he'd be there just looking down in the valley, looking out for something to eat, and you would just drive straight past it because you'd probably see a silhouette of a bird and you say, another kobo or another this or another that. But now that you know that they're there and you look out now and you can identify them, you can be like, oh my gosh, that's a white hawk.
Look at that pose though. He's just like... Can we get back to that close-up so you guys get a bit look at that?
Yeah, and that's exactly what he would do in the wild. Just literally stand there on that dead tree, doesn't want to waste his energy flying around the place, but just using those hawk eyes and just panning and looking for his favorite food, which would include iguanas and snakes. Those are two top, if you give him a choice on a menu and you have iguana and snake, he's saying, that's what I want.
Have you guys started feeding him iguanas and snakes yet? Finding snakes is not the easiest thing.
No, sometimes we will get persons who kill a snake or maybe a roadkill, and it would be a large specimen. We'll cut it up and feed it to all the animals.
I'm not lunch.
I freak out people sometimes because what I do, I'm going along a country road and a snake was just run over or an iguana, and I would put on my hazards and cut across the road, blocking the road, so now I can safely disembark from the vehicle, go into my trunk, get out my bag, and then I would go up to it, and of course people would stop and watching like, why is he trying to pick up this little iguana dead on the road?
You should tell them you're not trying to waste a good meal.
I do that to them, and they're like, ah! I show them like, man, this is a real good meal. And they're like, oh gosh, Trinis will eat anything. But yeah, they don't. The Trini that's going to eat it is actually this guy or other birds like that who prefer the reptilian diet. So they all have their preferences, but his preferences would be the iguana. And I was actually very fortunate to actually see them in action live, very much unexpected, washing dishes outside, a sort of outside sink and so on there that we have for the animals. And I looked, I had a little stir and I looked and wow, that's a beautiful green iguana. And before iguana could render in my mind, down swoops one of these guys, grabs that large iguana and just going, and I was like, oh, I didn't even get a chance, That's like a National Geographic moment that you didn't get. But for me, what's the most important thing? I experienced it. I saw it, so I understand. And for me, it translates into when I have to deal with the animal and understand what they like to eat and so on. So now every time I see something dead on the road, I'm checking it out to see who can feed with that.
Well, it's part of nature, as I said, why waste a good meal? Yeah. White, it's in a forested area, you wouldn't think that any species of animal would be white.
Now, looking up from a prairie perspective, looking up into the trees, you would be seeing the sky in between the leaves of the trees. So that's where this bird will camouflage very well. Because when the animals look up, they will see white. they wouldn't really notice to be able to pick out is a hawk because of how the coloration. He will camouflage very well in the treetops.
And based off of what Ricardo said in regards to sometimes when you're driving by like the North Coast, for example, you see them sitting on they're diurnal, they're not nocturnal.
Yes, diurnal birds.
Yes, fully.
How many species of hawks do we have in Trinidad that we at least know of?
About 19, at least 19.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, you start to go down the list, it's crazy, you know. So I'll do my very best. I will bring a picture, you know. You've heard of a bird called a chicken hawk?
Everything is a chicken hawk.
Right, so I will bring a picture of a chicken hawk one of these days. I'll get it. It's a lot to do, but we'll get it, all right? Because the chicken hawk, I'll tell you what the chicken hawk. The chicken hawk, you have the fish hawk, you have the white hawk, you have the savannah hawk, you have the gray-lined hawk, you have the roadside hawk, you have the broad-wing hawk, you have the short-tailed hawk, and on until we get to 19. Everything in Trinidad is a chicken hawk. So I have to bring 19 pictures and show you. You know, this lady, well, it was a chicken hawk that grabbed my chicken. Was it this one? No, it was bigger. Was it this one? No, it was smaller. Was it that one? No, it was wide. Which one is it? None of them. There are no chicken hawks anywhere in the world. So now we hunt out the iguanas, we kill out the snakes, and I have a video of people recently showing how to make a whole meal of a beautiful red-tailed boa that was crossing the road. They killed it, cut it up, cleaned it, curried it, and then showing you, boy, this is a real good meal. Right? But I'd like to send a message to those numbskulls.
It's hunting season according to them.
That's a protected animal. Show me your permit that says you can kill a snake. All snakes are protected. So by doing that, you broke the law. And in another sort of jurisdiction and another capability, they would be coming after you and knocking on your door and saying, hi, good morning, so we understand that this is you in your video here. Okay, and while we may not be able to arrest you, you know, they may be able to charge you for some infraction and so on like that there.
Yeah, you most likely get at least a citation.
Yeah, yep. That's like the guy in Florida. He was a hero on news because his wife came out the bathroom and there was a massive alligator in the bathroom. So he came in there with the broom and he beat the alligator out, and he was a hero. 2 days later, Fish and Wildlife came and gave him a citation because you are not supposed to touch the animal. She was not in any danger.
Did he kill the animal? Or?
No, but he beat it off with a broom.
The animal, yeah.
He beat it off with a broom. You're not allowed to do that.
Wow.
So they're serious about it. Says, while we appreciate your efforts, you can't do that. You need to call the authorities.
Oh.
So he didn't do that, and he was all over TV, so he couldn't hide. He couldn't hide. They gave him a nice $200 citation.
Not in Trinidad.
Nah, well,
not in Trinidad.
Maybe one day. There's always hope. Once there's life, there's hope. Else we're just wasting our time.
Now, is he at that size where he may hunt other hawks? Do we see that happening in Trinidad?
More of a territorial thing.
More than anything else?
These birds, they will be territorial, and that's the only way he will actually attack another hawk.
Now, in terms of mating, what about mating?
They actually have a very beautiful mating ritual where they do aerial displays, and they will grab each other's talons, the male and the female. Their courtship displays are in the sky. They will fly around, go up real high, lock talons, fall out of the sky. Just before they reach the top of the trees, they disembark and continue and do it again.
Wow.
Before they start, that's just their courtship display, before they start mating.
Do they mate for life, or
yes.
is it?
Yes, they do.
That is very incredible. So Jeremy, working with sky hares compared to working with hawks that you've interacted with previously, what's that been like? I know you said that sometimes you might have some scars and whatnot.
This bird, you have to be very particular, you have to be very careful. As I say, every single time I can't seem to get away from being grabbed, grouped, whatever you call it, from this bird. He's very quick and very precise. So like, take for example, even through a fence, I was just carrying a mouse. Just to give him a little mouse as a little treat through the wiring of his enclosure.
He heard mouse.
And this bird will miss the mouse and grab my hand through the fence in lightning speed, fly down and fit through that fence and grab my hand instead of holding onto the mouse. You know, so it's very, very precise with the way he will grope things.
Is that a good thing because it shows that he's got that wild in him?
Yes. He's very sharp.
Look at that wingspan.
Yeah.
You sure I prefer to be on the perch rather than the glove this morning?
Yeah, you always prefer the perch.
Dig it.
There you go.
And by the way, folks, you're seeing that taking place in studio. Let me remind you that these guys are trained. Ricardo and Jeremy are professionals. They are very much educated in what they do. And bear in mind, wow, look at that.
As they say,
very beautiful.
Leave it for the professionals.
Yes.
It's quite simply.
These guys are also, they're not keeping these animals as pets. And we can't stress that enough. They're rehabilitating these animals. And in instances where, unfortunately, for whatever reason, the animal may not be able to make it back to the wild, they do their absolute best to treat that animal and keep that animal. But he is stunning. He's absolutely stunning. So primarily snakes, primarily iguanas, not necessarily fish or anything, because you mentioned coastline. So
yeah, definitely not fish. But since you're eating their iguanas and you're killing their snakes, they're taking your chickens. So only seems fair, right?
Well, I don't have chickens, but sure. I know. But I mean, again, it's how nature works.
Yeah, the animal will find a way to survive, and they do take birds, especially if you're ground-based like a chicken for the most part, and if you're the right size, well, that's today's lunch.
What's generally the lifespan of these animals?
We've had one that we believe came in, it was probably as much as 9 years old, and we had it for 13 years.
Wow!
With severe injuries. He was blind in one eye, and he was shot, and broken wing that could not be fixed, and he had what we believe to be tumors in his lungs. The x-rays showed tumors in his lungs, but he was doing quite well until he passed. And his life was, someone got it, and someone took it because he shot it and kept it in an air-conditioned box. And the lady said I was wrong. So she took it and she put it in a kennel next to a pit bull.
You put it in a kennel next to a pit bull?
So when we got that bird, it was brown. From the
This
rust.
bird?
Yes, it was brown. It hardly had feathers. It took quite a while to identify exactly what it was, because the bird just kept beating itself through the wire to try and get away from this pit bull who was like so excited to try and eat it. Not this particular individual.
I know,
the one we
yeah,
had before.
yeah.
But yeah, just imagine this bird brown. That's the level of rust would have been on him, you know, for weeks doing that. So we were able to acquire that bird. It took 2 years for it to rehabilitate itself and shed and molt out the feathers and start to look like a white hawk again. And then even with the blind eye, the broken wing, the tumors on the lungs, it served us for 13 years before it passed.
That is, I mean, miraculous to say the least, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is rather incredible. But is there an animal, and this might sound like a rather stupid question, is there an animal in Trinidad that humans do not kill?
Well, you start at the top. Do humans kill humans? Yes. And now you go all the way down. So everything else below that is fair game. Yeah?
Anyway.
We prey on ourselves as if we were hunters of humans. So anything else is everything. There's nothing. There's nothing.
Jeremy, thank you very much for coming this morning and bringing Sky. I have to say, he is an absolute beauty. Incredible. I've seen a couple of walks on this program, but he really put on his best suit this morning for us.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thanks very much. And thanks for the work that you do. And Sky will be out soon, hopefully, if he continues.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Ricardo, thank you so much for your time once more. Thanks for coming on the program. And to you and to the... I had the privilege last week of being able to visit the center. And the work, the hard work by the entire team and all that you guys do. Ladies and gentlemen, please, if you get the opportunity, listen to Ricardo Mead in terms of education, but share with them again how they can contact you and even donate to the center.
Well, reaching the center is quite simple. Our cell phone is 366-4369. 366-4369. We're on social media. ECWC_TT. So that's the El Socorro Center Wildlife Conservation _TT. That's Instagram, that's Facebook. We're on Threads now also. Okay. We used to be on Twitter, but that account is just pretty much dormant. It's just not the right medium for us, really. And of course, we're on YouTube. And if you ever Google wildlife conservation in Trinidad, we're sure to pop up because people reach us from all over the world to ask questions about their animals.
Last year, the first that pops up. First that pops up. I've done it. First that pops up.
Because we're very active, and this month, is 18 years we've been at this. So the world kind of knows about us, and we have a lot of programs coming up. We're excited to round off this year, and a lot of exciting programs for next year for education to engage people all over the world. We have crossed 500,000 people that we would have interacted with our outreach programs over the past 18 years.
That is incredible. So we've got to speak more on those last 18 years the next show, but that's it for AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. Say goodbye, Sky. Yeah, you've been speaking the entire show. Ladies and gentlemen, wishing you a good day ahead, a safe day ahead, a productive day ahead. I'm Keaton Shaw, and I'll see you again tomorrow morning for AM Prime. Keep well.
WESN.
I'm Sean Michael Small, and we are WESN, the content capital. Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios. But they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit?
Yes.
What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole. It's for all of us in public.
They say, we have seen today's judgment and will now consider next steps. This was not the outcome we wanted, but we have spent the last few months planning for all eventualities, and we remain completely committed to stopping the boats. They'll say they'll do whatever it takes to implement that policy. So let's see what they consider to be whatever it takes and when that comes.
All right, Benedict, thanks for that. Benedict Pavio there in London. We'll be checking back in with you in about an hour's time. U.S. President Joe Biden is meeting his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping, today. Speaking ahead of those talks, Biden said his goal is to resume normal communications between the two superpowers, including military-to-military contacts. Wasim Cornet gave us more details.
After years of planning, San Francisco is getting ready to host its biggest international event in 80 years. It's impossible not to talk about the extremely tight security. These are just some of the hundreds of tall security barriers that have been erected in a 5-block radius around the Moscone Center. This is where many of the world leaders will be taking part in several meetings at this APEC summit. But the main event will be taking place this Wednesday at the Filoli Estate. That is about 40 kilometers south of San Francisco. That is where the leaders of the United States and China will be meeting for the first time in a year. Joe Biden, Xi Jinping will be talking about a wide range of issues, of course, trade, business, and commerce. Beijing will want to reaffirm the importance of Taiwan to its core domestic policy. The two leaders will also be talking about the war in Ukraine, Israel's offensive on Gaza, and also climate, because these two countries are, after all, the two biggest carbon emitters on the planet. The White House says it wants to improve relations between the two countries, but most importantly, resume normal communication between the armies of these two countries. Those broke down last year when then Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi traveled to Taiwan, a move which infuriated